the good thing about function notation is basically once you've seen it and you understand the format, there is nothing more to it. We just get straight into using it. So you will see me eventually introducing some things that your equations that you're familiar with. You'll see me starting to write them in the function notation format. So most of the rest of this chapter now does focus on the graphs. You'll rarely hear me talk about an equation in isolation anymore. All relationships and patterns in algebra that can be represented by an equation can also be graphed. And using the graphical representation of the relationship or pattern is essential for some aspects of maths that we're going to look at. And it just gives us another picture. So sometimes you can look at an algebraic equation, you can't really see the detail of what's going on in the relationship. But if we graph the relationship or the function, then we can see maximum points, minimum points. We can see really significant aspects. And they are some of the features of graphs that we will eventually be really focused on. But for now, we're just doing more revision with graphs in mind. You will see me repeat the little summary I did on the board for you the other day, where I was writing up. I think I wrote a heading, functions, on the side of the board, and I wrote 1 linear, 2 quadratic, 3 cubic, etc. So now, as you can probably see here, this is the way I've set the notes up within our functions, and we will go back to some of our graphs, because, for example, a circle, because they're not strictly speaking a function, but we have to be well aware of the equation of a graph, the equation of a circle and the graph of a circle, because they're relations. They will also occur here in this exercise. So you can see I've got linear, I've got quadratic, lots on quadratic, cubic, fourth power, etc. So lots on graphing here. Now, I've heard the comment from some students that they're not very good at graphing. You're not going to be able to afford to just say, oh, I don't know that graph, I can't do that graph. You can't afford to be in that position anymore. So it could mean for some of you that exercise 2G is a big exercise for you. It will be if in the past you haven't done a lot of graphing and you certainly are feeling like you're not familiar with the shapes of the graphs for the particular types of functions or relations that we're going to cover. So there are quite a lot. I think this, it will take me several videos to get through them all. I will not probably dwell on small features for all of them, because to be honest, we will come back to quadratics and treat the quadratic in a chapter all by itself. So we're not going to thrash out every little aspect. It's more just an overview of the functions for now. Okay, let's get started. Linear functions. So please be aware of the different ways in which a linear function could be written. I guess by far the most common one that you have seen so far would be this, y equals mx plus b. It could also be written in the form ax plus by plus c is equal to naught, because we could make y the subject and you'll end up with something similar to this. You could actually see it written in the function notation as minus a on xb minus c on b. And you might be wondering where that came from. It simply came from making y the subject. So if I'll pause the video and do that. So you can see there I've just put in a couple of steps, making y the subject, moving things to the other side of the equal sign, and then replacing y with f of x. Interestingly, today I've been at the HSC Markers Feedback Day in Sydney, and there was a lot of emphasis on students' ability to do this, to move things, to solve an equation, make something the subject of the equation. And so please make sure this is something that you are very familiar with, as it is a critical skill for this course. And the markers actually emphasise that over and over, that basic algebra skills are so critical to being successful and actually getting the most marks you possibly can out of the exam. Lots of marks, they were saying, the markers were saying, were lost due to really simple basic errors in algebra. They were even saying as far back as year 8, skills, algebra skills, were still not being used well, and that made the difference between an okay result and a good result. So just keep that in mind. Sketching linear functions, you know it'll be a straight line. X-intercepts occur when y is naught, y-intercepts occur when x is naught. Please just stop the video at any time for yourself. These are, like, I'm rushing, but these have to be things you know automatically. Y-intercept occurs when x is naught. But that's going to happen throughout all our functions when we're graphing them. This is specific to a linear function. If you've got y equals k, it's a horizontal line. X equals k is a vertical line. And I know that when we were doing an example on function notation, I think part of the function was y is equal to 4. And students seemed to be a little bit unsure about what the graph of y equals 4 would actually look like. I think we only had part of it actually, but yeah, this is the graph of y equals 4. We should be familiar with that. That is called a horizontal line. And then if you've got an equation in this format, this is what it looks like. It's a straight line through the origin. See this continual connection between the algebraic form and graphically what it's going to look like. The better that you can do that, the better your understanding of the skills and the concepts that you're going to learn will be. If for everything algebraic you learn, you can support it with a graphical picture, then your understanding will be very, very good. And so that's what you'll hear me constantly encouraging you to connect what you see algebraically with what would happen if we drew a graph. You'll become very confident with that the more you do. So if this is something you need a lot of practice at, then please ensure you do that. I can lend you more and different textbooks until you become very confident at that. I'll stop the video there and hopefully get through a few more and a little bit quicker in the next video.